Welcome to Behind the Bearcat. This is the podcast where the Northwest Missouri State University Career Services Office chats with Northwest faculty, staff, students, alumni, and friends to hear about their career journeys, how they got to where they are, and how they became Bearcats. I'm Career Services Assistant Director Travis Cline.
And I'm Hannah Christian, the Director of Career Services here at Northwest. And today's guest on our show is...
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Cline. I am the Alumni and Communication Specialist here at Northwest. So I'm over at the Faust Center in the Alumni House. It's right across from the President's House. So all alumni are welcome to visit anytime.
So
Welcome.
we're the North Siders and she's the South Sider.
Right.
Yes.
So welcome. We're so excited to have you as a guest on our show for many reasons, many reasons. But not least of which is because you were a student employee here at Career Services. So it's good to follow students as they kind of move through their careers. So I'm gonna go back all the way back to young Elizabeth. How did you find your way to Northwest?
Yeah, well, I am originally from Council Bluffs, Iowa. So I had kind of looked at some of the Iowa schools. I had heard of Northwest, but actually at the time I was kind of like, oh no, I don't want to go there. I'm not sure. And then it was the last college tour that I took. And then I came onto campus and I was like, wow, this is beautiful. I love the campus, the atmosphere, and everything. And that was kind of my deciding factor. You got that feeling that this is where I need to be. I really liked the size of the school. I liked that I could be really involved and know a lot of people, but then also there'd be new people, new faces that I wouldn't know, as opposed to like a big, huge state school or a really small private school. So it was kind of the best fit for me. Yeah.
And what about what did you study, or did you know what you wanted to study when you came to Northwest?
Yeah, so I came in undecided. I had no idea what I wanted to study. And I believe there was some sort of like exploring majors event or something like that, that I went to, and I decided, okay, I want to do communications. So one of my majors was organizational communications, and my advisor was Dr. Matt Walker. And I really enjoyed all of my communication courses. And then, kind of at the same time, I really wanted to pursue Spanish, and I really enjoyed learning about the culture. I loved it in high school and middle school. And so I decided, let me take some Spanish courses, thought about minoring in it. And then I was like, let's just major in it. So I double majored in Spanish as well. And I would say growing up, I would always be a talker. I love to talk. And so then I just decided to do it in two languages. So it just worked out perfectly. Yeah.
So how did you find
So,
Career Services? You were one of our student employees who was here before we started the podcast, so you've not been on before. So how did you find the career ambassador job?
well, I had a number of different campus jobs during my time. One of those for the longest time was university police dispatcher. So that was very interesting, some different hours and some great community work there. But then kind of was just looking at the different sites for the student employees and found career services and thought that would be a really great resume builder. I would learn some more about what I wanted to do post graduation. I didn't know what career I would choose from that, but being in that office was really helpful. I loved doing the career days, and I kind of liked the event management side of that because I also did an event internship with the university communication and marketing upstairs in the admin building. So I definitely wanted something that was career focused and could help my skills in the future.
So one of the things that I am always very interested to hear from, alums or folks who were really successful at working as student employees on campus, is what did you do to apply for and successfully navigate kind of that employment process? Because some students find it's very difficult to find even one position on campus. So if you can be successful in different places and finding different positions, what were your keys to success there?
Well, if I can recall all of that, but I remember I just always had an updated resume and made sure that if they were asking for a cover letter or whatever they were asking for, I made sure that I delivered those materials. And it was really easy, I thought, user-friendly on the Bearcat site to do student employment. And then kind of the piece of getting kind of mentored from the different individuals or the different leaders in all of those different departments was really helpful. So I thought that was just a great job. I mean, obviously, it's very flexible. They're going to work around your class schedules. You're meeting lots of people on campus. They see you going to classes. You're kind of representing the school in a way. And I always enjoyed doing that. But I would say, yeah, if students are trying to search for those, I would say definitely use the tools and resources that are out there on the website. And then just make sure that you have a current, up-to-date resume, know how to write a cover letter, all of that, which you can do with career services, and they'll help you out.
This is true.
Yeah.
So your time here, you were very successful student employee and student, and then how did you approach with a double major in communication and Spanish? Like, how did you approach the job search process after you graduated?
Yeah. So kind of right before graduating, it was the last like spring career fair, career day. And from that is where I kind of got my first job, actually. So I remember being on campus and searching, kind of not sure if I would go back home kind of to the Omaha area and get a job more in the communication realm, or if I wanted to maybe get certified to teach eventually in Spanish or do something different there. And I got a call from my first job post grad was a high school Spanish teacher for Benton High School in St. Joe. And they had called me. They got my resume from the career fair, the career day, and I kind of said, well, I don't have my education degree. I'm not qualified for this. Are you sure? And then they said, oh, you can work on your alternative certification and do all of that. So then I stayed kind of with taking classes with Northwest, did my alternative certification program, which is also a really great program that they offer for a range of different majors. So if you'd ever want to go into teaching history or PE, like anything, they can work around that. Um, so I pursued that and then did Spanish teaching for a few years, and COVID happened and all of that. So then eventually I moved back into kind of the marketing and that type of role. And when I did that job search, I kind of went back to my cues that I learned from school and from working as a career ambassador to make sure my resume is up to date, have some extra, maybe like a professional portfolio of some things I've worked on, and then really have a nice cover letter and just be ready for interviews too. Definitely is great to practice interviewing and to take opportunities like mock interview day and things that you guys do.
So, how hard was it for you to? I mean, I don't think you were looking for teaching positions in Spanish, right? So, how hard was it for you to adjust to that classroom role after you didn't take education classes for 4 years here?
Yeah. So I wasn't exactly a stranger to the classroom because my mom had taught school for many years. So I was definitely like a teacher's kid, would be in at the school different hours of the day. And I just kind of knew how that role worked, or what I thought how it would go. But luckily, with that district, they did give you like a mentor teacher to kind of help you, um, the classroom management side of it. But I had some really great colleagues there that kind of helped guide me at any of the questions I had. And then obviously professors here that would help as well. So I wasn't necessarily intimidated by going to the classroom. And I always thought, well, maybe, I mean, I do like to do this, or I like kind of a leadership role, and that kind of is like a leadership role. But yeah, it wasn't too foreign to me, but definitely it has its own challenges and everything.
And I think people don't think about teaching as super marketable skills. Like, you're presenting information to a group of people that may or may not be paying attention. You've got, Spanish has its own difficulties because you're trying to
Yep,
teach a different language to non-native speakers. And
yep.
so yeah, those are very marketable skills when you move out of education to that next role. So tell us about the next role. Where did you mentioned you go back into the marketing communication side. Where did you do that at?
Yes. So my husband and I, we moved for his job. He works for a bank. And so we moved down to Springfield, Missouri area, and I worked for a company. It's called Incredible Pizza Company. So a complete kind of shift. And I did social media managing for them, but that was a really fun environment. It's kind of like a family fun center that also has, pizza buffet and different things. And that was really fun, challenging to be kind of in a new role, but I got to learn because it was a small company. I got to really learn a bunch of the marketing techniques. I got to track KPIs and kind of get into the analytics of marketing. I got to write all my own copy, got to create all the content. So I was wearing a lot of hats, but that was obviously very helpful in where I am now.
Wow, that was like a whole different side of your brain of learning, like to go from like classroom management in Spanish to like now the social media kind of content side of things. Lots of learning happening there, right?
Yes, definitely,
Were there
definitely.
were there any sort of threads that kind of ran through maybe career ambassador, Spanish teacher, like marketing pizza places, like anything, any common threads that you felt like you brought with you through that journey?
Well, one that I can think of like right offhand would be kind of the people skills, kind of just the overall, no matter what job you're going to be in, you're going to have some sort of people skills or collaborating with others. And I think that in the career ambassadors, we were really good about obviously collaborating to put on the big events, to work together to help students when they come in. You're kind of mentoring, collaborating with them there. And then with teaching, that's obviously a huge part of the job too. It's not only just teaching the day to day, but there's a lot of other things teachers do that, mentoring the students. I helped with student council sponsorship and things like that. So it was definitely that was transferable there. And then kind of in the new role, just being able to adapt and make changes and also doing that collaborative role and learning is kind of what I think worked well with all three of those.
And then you kind of resurfaced for us. Where did you go after Springfield?
Yeah, so we moved again for for his job, and we were in mid-Missouri now. So I've kind of been all over the state. So we were in mid-Missouri, living in Marshall, Missouri is where we were, and there was a job opening at it was called Missouri Valley College, and I wanted to do it was a marketing communication specialist role. And I thought, wow, okay, like maybe this would be a good fit. I've never done higher education, but it I kind of was missing some of the student interactions that I had with teaching. And then of course I still wanted to do the marketing roles. I was enjoying it. I really liked it. And so then stepped into that role. And at that job, it was you had a really small team. My main focus was social media, but I also did a lot of like press releases and some of those writing materials, helped with their big like alumni magazine. And then with that school being so small, I had to kind of jump around and be very collaborative with all the different departments, especially when they needed, flyers for different things. And we really helped with the alumni office even there to put on events and help with the president's office. We were kind of a do-it-all type of office. So definitely, of course, learned way more skills there too. And that was really kind of brought me into the higher education realm.
And so imagine our surprise one day when Elizabeth Cline signs up for, was it Career Day that
Career
you
day.
came to?
Yes, yeah, yeah. I think it was, yeah.
So she goes from going to Career Day to like, we're like, what? What is this? And so comes back. Was it last year? Or the year
There,
before? I can't remember all the
yeah,
years
there was, I know I
together.
helped with a mock interview day and it was maybe like a virtual one. So I helped,
Mhm.
interview some students that were participating in that. And then I think it was maybe this last spring, but it was kind of when I was transitioning, like I already kind of knew this, I was going to go into this job. So it was kind of like, oh, hey, by the way, I'm coming back.
So she shows up at Career Day. We have great conversations. She's like, "Oh, I'm going to be working at Northwest," and we're like, "Yay!" So it was just an interesting, a very, very interesting, like kind of full circle journey. Very early in your career, though, like to have kind of sampled teaching and and sampled a little bit of marketing. And so then tell me about what you're doing now, and then tell me why you like doing that.
Yeah. So yes, I would say that my husband and I, we've lived a lot of life in the short amount of time. So we're good on moving for a bit. We luckily our families are right in this area, so we're planning to stay here long term. So that's just a little bit on that. But as far as this role now as the alumni and communication specialist, so I work mainly with obviously alumni and getting things ready for those kind of chapter events. I really do a lot with the email marketing side. And so we'll be sending emails. So if you get alumni emails, you're probably coming from me. And I also help with the social media side on there. And then we have some different student workers, like our social media assistant, that I'm going to help kind of guide and bring the different content to all of the Bearcat fans. So.
So as someone who's throughout your story as a student and then, after graduation, like you've kind of navigated finding jobs and kind of finding niches really well. And I think that's something when we work with students, there's a lot of concern about not being able to do that. Like, how do I do this? So what advice do you have for maybe students who are listening to this and saying, man, I hope that I can do that. I can kind of seamlessly transfer skills from one area to another and then kind of build, because it does seem like, you're teaching kind of, you took that experience, then you worked with a small business, you took both those things, built on that to go to Missouri Valley, and then now you're kind of specializing with the alumni stuff here. So you've really, it's a very cool path how you kind of taken to get to where you are now. So what advice do you have for students who are maybe at the beginning of that process and thinking, man, I don't know if I can do that. How do I,
Yeah.
what would you say to them?
Yeah, I would say to definitely just be open-minded, apply to a lot of different industries, a lot of different realms. Don't be too set in one way or one section or one emphasis of something. I would just say, yeah, be very open, kind of network as you can. If there's people that you know that you think, well, maybe they know somebody or they have a job here. But I would say, yeah, be very open-minded. I never thought I'd be where I am now. It's kind of the way life happens. You just kind of go with the flow is kind of how I do it. But yeah, I would say be open-minded, take risks, don't be afraid to try something new. I mean, if you're in a job and you're unsure, if you're like, oh, I don't know if I really want to stay in this role, I mean, explore, find something new. Um, I would definitely use the different like LinkedIn, make sure that's up to date. Make sure you always have a resume ready or some sort of portfolio or something that would show your craft or your major, whatever is your specialty. And then, yeah, just be very open-minded, apply to lots of different jobs and just kind of see where it goes.
Do you keep like portfolio artifacts for yourself? I mean, I imagine with like social media management, how do you do that?
Yeah, so I do try to keep a lot of the different files or different content that I create. If they're, for instance, with like social media, I will try to track some of those really big numbers or the big growth. And in a lot of the places I've been, I've luckily been able to, in the year span or however long I've been there, I've been able to grow their social media or make improvements. So I always like to keep track of some of those improvements. And then it's always smart to, if you do conferences or you do more trainings or anything like that, to really kind of keep track of that somewhere, even if you're just writing it down on, a piece of paper or keeping track of it in some way. But yeah, I definitely have lots of different flash drives of content and things that I've created because I'm like, well, why not? It's part of
Yeah.
my professional portfolio. So.
Well, I mean, any like quick tips or tricks since you've worked in the social media field, like what can we take away about social media that you've done? How have you been able to help them? Like, what's your thought process behind that?
Yeah, yeah. So you definitely want to find, depending on like where your market is. I mean, you want to know your target audience is kind of the big thing is like who are your people, who are your customers, um, and kind of go off of that. Um, the different platforms have the different strengths. So, like for instance, for us with alumni, we have a different demographic that is really engaged in the Facebook side of the alumni side. And then we also have kind of a younger alums and people that have maybe just graduated that are in the Instagram side. So one of my goals now is to kind of build Instagram to be a little bit more to kind of the crowd and the audience that is needed for that. But I would say you want to make sure you have lots of different content that's engaging, find the things that work on each of those platforms. So in the old job, people really liked some of the riddles and more of the games that kind of went with like the gaming and Incredible Pizza and all of that. Whereas here, people really like to see the pictures of, oh, who was at the event, who was at the alumni social, and who was at the watch party, and kind of seeing the history or kind of showing that nostalgia, the throwbacks. That's more appropriate here. So it kind of just depends on your industry and just kind of always staying in the know. I mean, trends and things change all the time. Marketing is ever changing. So you just have to be always learning. And I like to do a lot of webinars and research things just so I can kind of stay up to date. And then it also is really helpful when I have like a student employee that kind of knows some of the trends that are going on now to kind of bridge that gap.
What are things you look for in a student employee? So, you mentioned having some students that you're working with in the Alumni Association. If students are applying for those jobs, what are the things that they really need to be making sure they put out there for supervisors to see?
Yeah. I definitely like to see that they're organized, that they can, take on a lot of different tasks and kind of keep track of that. I also like to, make sure that they're presentable, friendly, they're willing to, be for us, it's good to have kind of a customer service side because we do have alumni come in from time to time and working with other professionals. So definitely somebody that is friendly, that is organized, and someone that's willing to learn and is just kind of open-minded to lots of different things. And for my side specifically, I want someone that's creative, and has some different ideas and is willing to share those. And yeah, just be kind of a helping hand wherever we need and just be ready to take on any task.
What about, and maybe this is telling, but what about red flags? Like, as a supervisor of like student employees, are there any like no, 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 like one or two things you're like, I will not hire that person, aside from obviously I'm not organized, I'm not a good worker, right?
Right,
Don't show
right.
up for the interview.
Right, yeah. If there is like a lack of communication, if they're like MIA, and they just are or maybe like really late or just not, um, or maybe they don't care about maybe some of the rules or guidelines, maybe just not presenting themselves in a good way if they're showing up in sweatpants and just different things that we're not, we can't have in our office. Um, but yeah, those are maybe some of the red flags. But yeah, definitely if the communication isn't there and they're not reciprocating or like emailing, or if they're gonna be late or they're gonna be something to let us know, that's one thing. But if just kind of being nowhere to be found, that's obviously a huge red flag.
What else,
Excellent.
Travis?
Yeah, I think that covers a lot of it. So it's definitely been fun to kind of watch your career journey. It's always fun in this office to have folks that are students and then see that student journey, but then also to see after they graduate. And it's been really fun to watch, like you when you were teaching and then when you were working for the pizza company, seeing all the fun stuff you were doing there, and then the Missouri Valley stuff. So it's been, as someone who has been in this office for a good while, it's been very rewarding to kind of see your journey from young little student employee to amazing professional. So that's really
Oh,
cool. So
well,
we're very proud of
that's
you.
awesome. Thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah, so thank you for being a guest. We're very excited to keep working with you, and
Mhm.
we're just super glad to have you back on campus.
Where can people
Yeah.
find the Alumni Association? Maybe if they are an alumni and they want to connect, or maybe if they're a student that is thinking about an internship or a job, how can they find the Alumni
Yeah.
Association other than going to the Faust House?
Yes, so the website. So if you go on the nwmissouri.edu and you go to I think it's on the menu like affiliates, and then it'll say like alumni athletics. That alumni page is on there and you can just explore all the things we do. You can see some of the active chapters we have. A feature I kind of like is there's a Tower yearbook archives, and you can like look
Oh,
back
that's
at
cool.
lots of years of yearbooks. And I didn't even know that until I started back here that I was like, oh, this is a great resource. And then we also, if there's special events that are going on, we usually like to keep those populated on that site or on that page. And then you can sign up for reunion events and different things that we have going on. And then as far as like if student employees, if they wanted to look, I believe that they can just go to the jobs at Northwest side and then they can see some of those. But definitely follow us on Facebook and Instagram and and all of those channels. So
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it. And we're so excited to have you back on campus.
I'm gonna get off of here and I'm gonna go hunt through yearbooks for the rest of the day.
it's
That's
fun. It's fun.
kind of gave me my agenda there.
Yes, they don't have all the newer ones. I don't know where they stop off at. Maybe it's 2005, 2009 or something.
Oh, I'm looking
But
for Travis.
okay, okay.
All right. Excellent. Well, that will do it for another episode of Behind the Bearcat, and we will talk to you next time. Hey guys, we hope you enjoyed that episode. If you did, be sure to give us a thumbs up below. That helps out. Also, if you've not done so yet, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new episode. Also, we'd love to connect with you on social media. You can find Behind the Bearcat on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Plus, the audio podcast comes out on Fridays on all the major podcast platforms. Thanks again for watching Behind the Bearcat, and as always, we'll talk to you next time.